Hi folks, welcome to my channel. I'm gonna solve some exam style questions with you, for you, and I'll begin with Cambridge IGCSE level. Paper 1, component number 2 of the last existing paper now. So it's February-March 2024. So usually students have 45 minutes for 40 questions, and it's about 1 minute to 10 seconds for each question. So it's just weighted time. In fact, students may spend about 5 to 10 seconds on each question, and some questions may kill your time and taking maybe up to 5 minutes just to solve one question. So let's start one by one. So first question, which statement about a solid or liquid or gas is correct? So we need to recap the first unit, which is about states of matter, and understand and memorize properties of substances in three aggregate states. So look at the first option. Solid has a fixed shape. So we agree with that part of the statement, and can be compressed. Well, if you remember, only gases are compressed, so we can cancel out this. So this is not our option, so A is not for us. A liquid takes the shape of the container it is in and can be compressed. Okay, liquid takes the shape of a container. Yep, we agree with that. So any liquid tries to take the shape of the container. So next part, can be compressed. So we know that liquids are not compressible. Next option, so B is not for us. A solid has no fixed shape. Automatically cancel out, so we know solid has a shape, so it's not our option. Look at the last one, so option D. A gas takes the shape of the container. Absolutely right. If you remember, any gas occupies the whole container that it has and can be compressed. If you remember, only gases are compressible, so D is the correct answer. Okay, now let's move on to the next question. So which diagram represents a mixture of compounds? So we need to memorize the meaning of the term compound, element, mixture, and pure substance. So compound is a substance that is made up to two different elements. Surprisingly, yeah, this is according to the Cambridge syllabus. An element it can be a substance made of the atoms of the same element. So you need to have atoms of one type. So the definition of the term element is the atoms of one type. So they contain always certain amount of protons, but it's just a spoiler. So look at option A. We see black and white dots. So they represent elements. So they represent two types of atoms or two types of elements not combined with each other. So it's a mixture, yeah, but it's a mixture of elements, so it's not our option. Look at option B. So we have this substance represented by three atoms of two types. So we can say that this is a compound, yep, and it contains other types of particles represented by two atoms of the same element combined into one molecule. So we need to consider it as not a compound but as an element. So this is a mixture, yeah, but of the compound and element. So this is not correct option. Look at option C. So we have one molecule, another molecule, so they are substances that are made of two types of atoms, two types of elements, so they are compounds definitely, and this is a mixture of two compounds, so that is our correct answer. And look at the option D. So we see only substances of that composition, so this is a compound, but we don't have any other species in that example, so it's not a mixture at all, so not an option. All right, look at the question number 3. 4 ions are listed. Which pair of ions have the same electronic configuration? So In order to answer to that question, we need to address to the periodic table. So first we need to find our element and identify how many electrons are there if atoms are neutral. So let's find nitrogen first. So nitrogen is an element number 7, so we need to pay attention to the smallest number, which represents number of protons first and electrons if atom is electrically negative. So nitrogen contains 7 electrons, but look, we don't have an atom, we have ion with charge 3 minus, and we need to remember how ions are produced. So nitrogen ion is produced, exactly this ion, when electrons are gained. When they are gained. So the number of electrons gained also refers to the charge. So 3 minus means 3 electrons are gained. So negative charge means there are more negative particles. So 7 electrons initially in nitrogen plus 3 electrons gained gives us 10 electrons. Okay, let's look further to aluminium ion. So we have aluminium atom with 13 protons and 13 electrons, but we don't have an atom. We have aluminium ion, but now we have a positive ion. So positive ions are produced when electrons are lost, and also this number refers to the number of electrons lost. So 3 plus means there are 3 electrons lost, and 13 minus 3 gives you 10 electrons in that case. All right, and probably they have same electronic configuration, so you don't need to work out that configuration, and now you can save your time just finding an option with these 2 ions. So it's option B, as you see, aluminium 3 plus and nitrogen 3 minus. So you can skip the rest part. If you do the same, you'll find out that there are 2 electrons here and 18 electrons here, which is not equivalent, and their electronic configuration is absolutely different. All right, let's move on to the next question. Which statement about isotopes is correct? All right, we need to remember the definition of the term isotopes. So isotopes are atoms of the same element that differ only by their number of neutrons, or sometimes it's just named as nucleon number or mass number, which is the same. All right, atoms with different numbers of electrons and are isotopes of each other. I can't say so. Because isotopes contain same number of protons. Therefore, if we talk about electrically neutral atoms, they have same number of electrons. So this part contradicts to our understanding. Next, atoms with the same mass numbers, we know that their masses are different. So this part contradicts to our understanding again. Isotopes of the same element have different numbers of neutrons, and that is our correct option. So we can skip option D, but I'll give you some details. Look, isotopes of the same element have different numbers of protons. No, if they have different number of protons, that will be different elements. So not an option at all. Look further to question 5. Which statement about the ions formed by the elements in group 7 of the periodic table is correct? All the ions have the same charge of 1 minus. Okay, group 7, we need to find out the correct statement. So group 7 elements are known as halogens, so you can find them out here. So this is group 7, and they produce only 1 ions with negative charge 1 minus, as you remember. So that is probably the correct answer, and you can save your time again. But if you're not sure that option A is correct answer, you can address to the further options. So all the ions have the same number of electron shells. No way. So number of electron shells can be described just by looking at the number of periods. So fluorine is in the second period, so it has 2 shells. Chlorine is in the third shell, so it contains 3 shells, etc. So not our option. Each ion is formed by losing one electron. Nope, they are produced by gaining electrons. So this is not the correct part of the statement. Each ion has 7 electrons in its outer electron shell. Nope. We know that atoms, they try to have an electronic configuration like noble gases. For example, except helium, the rest of them, they have 8 electrons in their last shell. So fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, acetylene, they tend to have 8 electrons instead of 7. So they gain 1 electron, and that ion has 8 electrons in the last shell. So this is not correct. So as I told you before, you can save your time like that. Okay, look at question number 6. Which row describes the properties of potassium bromide? So we need to memorize what type of substance is it and what properties that type of substances have. So potassium bromide is a substance made of metal potassium and non-metal bromine. So we need to know that mostly metals and non-metals tend to have an ionic bonding between them. So you need to refer to properties of ionic substances. So ionic compound properties. So you need to address them. So what about solubility in water? So mostly ionic substances are soluble in water. Mostly, but not always. So we can get rid of options A and C. So yeah, it is soluble. Melting points of substances with ionic bond is relatively high, one of the highest ones. So you can cancel out option B, and double check option D by looking at the last property, electrical conductivity when solid. So you need to remember that ionic compounds are insulators when they are solid, so they are poor conductors of electricity, but they can conduct electricity in molten or aqueous state when they dissolve in water. So the correct option is D. Next, which statement explains why graphite is used as a lubricant? Okay, we need to address two properties of substances with giant covalent structures. So you know graphite has a sliced structure with weak forces between that layers, and there are carbon atoms in each layer connected with 3 atoms around of other carbon atoms by very strong covalent bonds. So bonds within the layer are very strong, but between are weak. So and we need to explain why it is used as a lubricant. So each carbon atom in graphite forms 3 bonds. No, it is true, but it doesn't explain why it's a lubricant. The bonding in graphite is covalent. Yep, but again, it doesn't explain why this substance is a lubricant. So we need to find something that addresses to that weak forces between layers. So carbon atoms are arranged in hexagons. Yes, and they are still talking about the same one single layer. There are weak forces of attraction between the layers of carbon atoms, and that is our option. Look, because of that, because of weak forces between these layers can be sliced out. So when you just simply draw something using a graphite on the paper, you are actually leaving layers of graphite on the paper. And same happens when you use it as a lubricant. So that layers can be sliced out, and this is a lubricating property. All right, next question, question number 8. What is the balanced equation for the reaction between magnesium and dilute sulfuric acid? So what mistakes can you do? So you can choose an option with not equal amount of atoms in both sides. So you need to find the balanced equation, and formula of substances should be correct. So metal and acid, usually if metal is located before hydrogen in list of in reactivity series, so it can produce salt and hydrogen. So this is a dilute acid. So this is a salt, and formula is correct. So sulfate ion has charge 2 minus, magnesium 2 plus, and overall formula of magnesium sulfate is MgSO4, and we still see hydrogen gas. So you can get rid of option B, C, D only because the substance magnesium sulfate has that formula, and you need to double check if it's balanced. It is, so all of the atoms are equal in both sides of the reaction, so you can again save your time and move further. So look at question number 9. Relative atomic mass of an element is the average mass of the isotopes, blah blah blah. So this is just a theory. Which particle is used for this comparison? So you need to remember the definition of the term relative atomic mass. So relative atomic mass is the mass of isotopes, so average mass, compared to 1/12 of carbon 12 isotopes. So you need to choose this one. So there is nothing to guess here, you just need to know the correct definition. So next question. The equations of two reactions are shown. So it's just two random equations here. Which row shows the value of x, the value of y, and the equations that are for redox reactions? Alright. First, we need to pick up the redox equation. So in order to say whether it's redox or not, you need to assign their oxidation numbers. So oxidation number of carbon is 0 because it's an element, it's a compound made of only one single element. So oxidation number of oxygen is usually -2, and for carbon is going to be +4 to make the substance neutral, because we simply have 2 oxygen atoms. So -2 by 2 gives you -4, so it must be 0. So this will have oxidation number of +4. Then here -2 plus 2. Okay. Then we need to say whether it's redox or not. So look, carbon was with oxidation number 0 and it turned into +2, so it's an increase in oxidation number. Then it was +4 and it turned into +2, so it decreased. So reduction and oxidation takes place at the same time, so this is a redox reaction exactly. So look at the next equation. So hydrogen is usually having oxidation number +1, and it's gonna be +6 here, so it's -3 or something. But it doesn't make any sense to assign these aggregate states, because you see that oxygen is given in form of pure oxygen, so it's 0. So it's here. Here is gonna be -2, -2. So oxygen definitely has changed its oxidation number, so it gets reduced. So simply in hydrogen we have +1, +4 here. So as you see, oxidation number of carbon has changed, so it's also a redox reaction. So equation 1 and 2 are redox reactions, so you can cancel out options A and C. Then check values of x and y. So in order to do that, you need to balance the equations. So you have two carbon atoms on in the first equation, so you simply can put 2 here. So then the reaction is balanced, so value of x should be 2, so you can just pick up option D as the correct answer. So the rest are not correct. Oh, hold on. So both options are correct by now. Then we need to check the value of y. So you again need to balance it. So number of hydrogen atoms here is 12. 2 by 6 gives you 12. So in order to have 12 here, you need to put 6 here. So the correct answer is D. So 3 is not correct. Alright, next question. Concentrated aqueous sodium chloride is electrolyzed using graphite electrodes. Which is the product? What is the product formed at the cathode? Okay, so there is electrolysis topic. So you have 2 electrodes connected to the battery, plus minus. So and you need to know what type of ions are going to be discharged during the electrolysis. So electrolysis is simply a decomposition, chemical decomposition by means of electricity. So on cathode you have positively charged ions surrounding the cathode. So cathode is here. So positive ions are here around this electrode. So what kind of positive ions do we have here? So aqueous sodium chloride, it can contain sodium cations and tiny amount of hydrogen ions that are produced when water dissociates into hydrogen ion and hydroxide ion. But this happens with very small amount of ions in water, and you need to pick up one of the ions that going to be discharged. Okay, now in order to answer to that question, you need to memorize the list of discharging. So you probably remember the rule, please stop calling me a careless zebra, instead learn how copper saves gold. So this mnemonic rule can allow you to memorize this reactivity list. So please is for potassium, stop for sodium, calling me, so calcium, magnesium, a careless zebra, instead learn how copper saves silver, gold. So gold is there. So we need to look at these elements, and according to that mnemonic rule, you need to memorize that ions located below are discharged first. So hydrogen is going to be discharged first. So that is the correct answer. That's it. Okay, next question. Which row describes the changes that occur when metals burn in oxygen? Okay, so metals burn. So you need to look at the word burn, and this should tell you that this is an exothermic reaction. So this is combustion. So during combustion process, temperature is always increasing. So you can cancel out options A and B. So you see you have 50% of chance giving the correct answer. What happens with metal when it reacts with oxygen? So metals are oxidized. So oxygen is an oxidizing agent. So metals are oxidized, and you can tell this just by assigning their oxidation numbers if you are not sure in this. So -2 +1, so oxidation number in sodium increases, and if you remember, the process when oxidation number increases is known as oxidation. So metal gets oxidized. So option C is the correct. Okay, next, when calcium carbonate is heated strongly, carbon dioxide gas is produced. Which words describe the type of change that occurs? Okay, calcium carbonate heated. So it's decomposition, it's thermal decomposition of calcium carbonate, which gives us these two products, calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So heated, it means heat is absorbed, and this is endothermic reaction. So you can cancel out options C and D. And what type of change is it? Is it physical change or a chemical change? So what's the difference between chemical and physical changes? The difference is that during physical changes, the only state changing, so something boiling or freezing or condensing, but during a chemical change, composition changes. So calcium carbonate turns into calcium oxide. So the name says itself, it's a chemical change. So B is not an option. So next, question. Which row about hydrogen oxygen fuel cell is correct? Okay, so this topic addresses to the electrochemistry topic. So you need to simply memorize what is a standard fuel cell, hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. So it contains 3 main compartments with membrane between, and there is a supply of hydrogen and oxygen gas that results in a chemical reaction that generates electrons. So simply it's a redox reaction. So hydrogen reacts with oxygen, but it's not a combustion. So this is redox reaction, but not a combustion. So chemical energy is transferred to electrical energy. So this system generates electricity, converting hydrogen and oxygen to water. So chemical to electrical is an option. So you can cancel out options C and D. What reaction takes place? As discussed before, hydrogen and oxygen combine with each other to give water. It's not a decomposition. So this is an electrolysis process. So water decomposes in its compounds under the electricity. So that is not an option. Okay, which list contains only chemical changes? Again, you need to cancel out all of the physical changes. Look, boiling, condensing, distillation. It is, well, they are physical changes. Neutralization is a chemical reaction. Polymerization, chemical reaction. Combustion is a chemical reaction. So C is the correct answer. Freezing cancels out, evaporating cancels out, melting, dissolving. So they all are physical changes. So we can go further. Question number 16. Oh, such a big question. All right, let's look at it. Calcium carbonate is added to hydrochloric acid of different concentrations in 2 separate experiments. The volume of gas is measured every 30 seconds and results are here. Which diagram represents the data collected? So in experiment 1, you should have 120, but in experiment 2, it must be 2 times less volume. So this is not correct already. So this part is not correct. So look at option B. So the volumes are pretty fine. So now let's check slope of the curve that describes the rate of reaction. So if you remember, rate is higher when you have higher concentration. So for a reaction for experiment 1, it should be also of a different slope. So it should describe that first reaction is going to take place faster. So this actually doesn't contradict. And in experiment 2, the slope is different, describing slower reaction. Look at option C. So we have correct volumes in both experiments, but slopes are very close to each other. You see slope in experiment 1 and 2, they are similar to each other. And in experiment 1, volume of in D for experiment 1 is not correct. So you can cancel out option D. So the last thing to look at these two options is the slope. So this slope is correct, but this means probably hydrochloric acid was taken in the same concentration but in less volume maybe. So this is not correct answer, so B is the correct option only. Okay, next question. An experiment is set up as shown. The mass of conical flask and its contents is measured every 30 seconds. So 50 centimeters of acid, 1 gram of calcium carbonate. So which statement above the reaction and changes to the reaction conditions is correct? Okay. Adding 10 centimeter cube of water to 50 milliliters of acid increases the rate of reaction. Nope. So you simply diluting acid, and this results in less concentration of acid, and rate, as you remember, is going to decrease. Increasing the size of the pieces of calcium carbonate increases the rate of reaction. Nope, again, contradiction. So if you remember, the smaller particles are the faster the reaction, because at smaller particles, if you have same mass, surface area is greater and reaction takes place faster. So this is not correct. Increasing the temperature increases the rate of reaction. Absolutely fine with that, because you know there is a direct relationship between temperature and rate. The mass of the conical flask and its contents increases as carbon dioxide is formed. No, carbon dioxide is a gas and it goes off, and the content decreases in mass. So this part is not correct. Let's move on. Question number 18. Which reaction is reversible? Reaction of calcium of aqueous sodium hydroxide with dilute hydrochloric acid. So this is neutralization reaction, and you should remember that these reactions are irreversible because they result in production of water. And when you have water in products, probably you're dealing with irreversible reaction. Formation of anhydrous copper sulfate from hydrated copper sulfate. And I suppose that this is the correct answer, because water can be combined with copper sulfate to produce crystals of copper sulfate if you add small amount of water. And you can also dehydrate copper sulfate, remove water by heating. So that is the correct answer. Oxidation of methane to form carbon dioxide and water. Remember, water. If you see water in products, probably you're dealing with irreversible process. So no. And simply it's combustion process. When substances burn, they produce carbon dioxide, sometimes water, and this cannot be changed back. And again, combustion, you see that word? So combustion reactions, neutralization reactions, or reactions that lead to formation of insoluble substances, usually salts, are examples of irreversible reactions. Next question. Silver oxide reacts with magnesium to make silver and magnesium oxide. Okay, which substance is oxidized in reaction? So again, you need to assign oxidation numbers. So 0, 0 for pure individual substances. I mean substances that are made of single element. Then assign oxidation number of oxygen here. So it's -2, and this must be +1. -2 +2. Okay, so which substance is oxidized? So oxidation is a process when oxidation number increases. So you need to find that element where oxidation number increases. So it's magnesium. So you see, from 0 to +2, magnesium gets oxidized. Next, compound X dissolves in water to form an aqueous solution. Okay, methyl orange is added to aqueous compound X. The methyl orange turns red. What is compound X? Okay, so X produces aqueous compound. So it says us that it's soluble. So probably you're dealing with ionic compound. So this refers to that. Mostly ionic compounds are soluble in water. Methyl orange is added and it turns red. So what does it mean? So you need to remember the colors of methyl orange in 3 solutions: neutral, acidic, and basic solutions. So methyl orange in neutral solution is obviously orange. When you add it to an acid, it turns red, and when you add it to a base, it turns yellow. So red means it produces acidic solution. So this is not probably ionic compound. It could be also covalent compound that can dissociate in water. So sodium carbonate. So sodium carbonate is a salt that can undergo hydrolysis process, and sodium carbonate solution is going to be basic, so this is not our option. Copper oxide is insoluble in water. Even if you don't know that, so copper oxide is a basic oxide which is insoluble in water, and whether it's soluble or not, it cannot change the solution into acidic. Potassium oxide, it's ionic substance that can be soluble in water. It's soluble and it produces potassium hydroxide, which is a base again, and it's not our option. Sulfur dioxide, it's an acidic oxide that can react with water to give sulfurous acid, and that turns methyl orange red. So that is the correct answer. Next question. Dilute hydrochloric acid reacts with sodium hydroxide in a neutralization reaction. Which two ions are involved in neutralization reaction? So neutralization is always a reaction between hydrogen and hydroxide ions. So you need to pick up that option and ignore others. Okay, the table shows some properties of some of the elements in group 1. Alright. Rubidium is also an element in group 1. Which row describes the properties of rubidium? Okay, so it's about predicting the trends. So you have lithium, sodium, potassium, then rubidium. So you can just check the periodic table if these elements are in this order. Lithium, sodium, potassium, then goes rubidium. Yep, it's about trends. So as you see, melting points down the group decrease, and melting point of rubidium should be lower than 64, so you can cancel out options C and D because their melting points are out of the trend. Okay, now look at the next property, a reaction with water. So reactivity down the group increases, as you see, fizzes steadily, vigorously, and very vigorously. And you need to pick up the option which describes the most vigorous reaction. So fizzes slowly is not our option. Fizzes explosively, yep, that's it. That is the maximum degree that you can use to describe its reactivity in this trend. So option B is the correct answer. Next, copper sulfate crystals are blue. They're made by adding excess of copper oxide to sulfuric acid. Mixture is heated and stirred. The mixture is then filtered, and filtrate is allowed to evaporate, leaving blue crystals. Why is filtration necessary? Alright, it's this topic is related to salts preparation. So you can memorize reactions taking place, copper oxide plus sulfuric acid. So this is kind of neutralization reaction, gives us copper sulfate and water. And don't forget to assign aggregate states because they're important, and this may give you hints. So copper oxide is a solid substance. This is an aqueous. This is aqueous substance, liquid. Okay, when you mix them together, so you're adding excess of copper oxide. So this was in excess. Then mixture is heated and stirred. So in order to ensure that all of these acid reacted. So in your beaker, at the end you have copper sulfate and some copper oxide in excess, which is left. So you have solution containing this substance and some copper oxide left on the bottom. Then the filtration, the mixture is filtered and filtrate is allowed to evaporate. So you simply filtering this, and you're filtering it in order to get rid of solid substance, insoluble substance, so which is left on the filter paper, And filtrate contains copper sulfate only if acid reacted completely, so it is. The mixture is filtered in, and filter is allowed to evaporate, leaving blue crystals. So after some time, some amount of water goes off due to evaporation, and this results in crystallization. So after some time, you'll have some crystals of copper sulfate. So why filtration is necessary? To remove soluble impurities? Nope. To remove sulfuric acid, you don't have it at all. It reacted, it was limited. To remove the blue crystals? Nope. The blue crystals are left after the reaction, after the crystallization. And to remove unreacted copper oxide. And that is our option, guys. Alright, next question. Which barium salts are soluble in water? So, how can you guess this? So it's about trends of group 2 elements. So you need to remember also solubility rules with exceptions. So this topic is related to salt preparation, and solubility rules are given and you need to memorize them. So there is no solubility chart at the end of the booklet, so you better just remember them. So barium sulfate is insoluble. So as you remember, sulfates, they are also in trend. So down the group, sulfates become insoluble. So calcium, strontium, barium sulfates are insoluble. Magnesium is soluble. So this is not an option. All nitrates are always soluble, so you can pick up them as the correct answer. So you can cancel out options A and B. Then look at options containing third substance. So you need to cancel out compound number 4. As I told you, barium sulfate is insoluble, so the only correct answer is C, 2 and 3. So barium chloride is soluble. Barium carbonate, so carbonates except metal 1, 2 and ammonium carbonate are insoluble. Okay, next question. Which statement about the properties of elements in group 1 or in group 7 is correct? Okay, so it's again about trends. Bromine displaces iodine from an aqueous solution of bromine iodide. So it's displacement reaction. So you need to work out the equation and say whether this reaction is possible or not. So will this happen or not? In order to answer to that question, you need to remember properties of group 7 elements, so especially reactivities. So down the group, reactivity decreases. So it means that these halogens are the most reactive and they can replace other halogen ions from their compounds. So fluorine can replace chlorine from chlorides, chlorine can replace bromine from bromides, and etc. So we need to double check. Whether it's true or not. So bromine should be more active than iodine. Is it true? Yes, it is. So you can skip the rest options and pick up this as the correct answer. So next, rubidium and strontium are both in period 5 of the periodic table. Rubidium is in group 1, strontium is in group 2. Which statement about these elements is correct? Each element has 5 electrons in its outer electron shell. Nope, it's not correct. They are in different groups. So this element, rubidium, has 1 electron in its outer shell. Strontium has 2 electrons. Not our case. The atomic number of rubidium is greater than the atomic number of strontium. So rubidium and strontium, so atomic number is the number of protons, and here it is. So strontium has greater atomic number than rubidium, so it's against, so it's not correct. Rubidium forms rubidium plus ions and strontium forms strontium 2 plus ions. I agree with that. So group numbers for group 1, 2, they fit with their charges of ions. So rubidium produces rubidium plus ion because it has one single electron to lose. Strontium produces 2 plus ions because it has 2 electrons to lose, according to their group numbers. So you can skip the rest option. Move on to the next. A company needs a metal with a low density which resists corrosion and it's a good electrical conductor. Which metal should it use? Alright, so it's about metals and their properties, especially alloys, but this is not about alloy. So low density resists corrosion. So low density probably means lightweight. So this has greater density. Magnesium could be an option, aluminium could be an option, and sodium is also lightweight. So you can cancel out option B because of high density. Resists corrosion, it means that this metal will not react with water in presence of oxygen. So sodium reacts vigorously with water. Magnesium slowly reacts with water in humid air. So aluminium does not react with water because of aluminium oxide being a protective layer. Aluminium itself, if you remove oxide layer, actually reacts with water. But if it's exposed to the air, it automatically, very quickly is coated by aluminum oxide layer. Good electrical conductor. All of these options are fine with that requirement. So option A is the correct. Next question. Which statement about stainless steel is correct? Okay, this is related to alloys, and you simply need to memorize their properties. There are just few alloys to remember. All atoms in stainless steel are the same size. Nope, stainless steel contains iron, some carbon, nickel, and chromium. So they are of different sizes, and that makes steel really hard. Stainless steel is a mixture of copper and zinc. Nope, it's a brass. It's not a copper and zinc. Stainless steel is an iron compound. Absolutely right. So it contains iron in majority. Stainless steel is stronger than pure iron. Okay, this is correct answer. Oh, sorry. C is not correct answer. Stainless steel is an iron compound. It's not a compound. It's a mixture. So I was confused by word compound, misunderstood it. So it's not a compound. It's an alloy, and according to the definition, alloys are mixtures. So this is not correct. Okay, so D is the correct answer. Next, which statements explain why water tap made of steel is electroplated with copper? Okay, so it's electroplating, and this is related to the reactivity series and electrolysis. So steel electroplated with copper. So why you need to so this is steel, and this is coated by a layer of copper. So it improves the conductivity of the tap. Maybe it improves the tap's resistance to corrosion. Definitely. So stainless steel, well, it's not a stainless steel, so it contains iron and carbon only. And if you remember, iron can rust. So you need to improve the resistivity. So copper doesn't rust. So it gets oxidized, but it's just one layer. And what is left under this layer is remain same. So this is the fine answer. So you can cancel out option B and D because we are definitely sure in option 2. Okay, it increases the density of the tap. Well, it's just a single layer, or just layer of few atoms. So I don't think this is the correct option. So alright, let's go back to the first and third statements. So I'm not sure that this is correct. The density of the tap doesn't change significantly because that layer is very tiny. So this is not an option. So let's look at the first one. I told you that this is maybe. It improves the conductivity of the tap. Well, it's still metal. It may change the conductivity, but that change is not so significant. And this is not correct option. So C is the correct answer. Next question, question number 30. The table shows the result of separately heating 4 metals with oxides of different metals. Okay, 4 metals are iron, copper, magnesium, and Y. The results are shown. What is the order of reactivity of the metals? Least reactive first. Alright, so you need to check the reactivity. So, iron reacting with magnesium oxide. A reaction is not taking place because this is about reactivity series. So most reactive metal can replace least reactive from its compounds, in our case oxides. So there is no reaction, and it's obviously true. So the most reactive metal should replace all of the other metals from their compounds. So magnesium oxide is, well, magnesium is the most reactive metal in this list. So because magnesium oxide gave no reactions with all of these metals, it means that magnesium is the most reactive element in that list. So you can cancel out options C and D. Then we need to check this list then. So copper is the least reactive in this series because copper didn't give any reactions with all of these oxides. So the least reactive metal is copper. Then we need to check between iron and metal Y. So which of these metals are more reactive or less reactive? So let's check iron. So iron gave no reaction with magnesium, obviously, and gave no reaction with metal Y oxide. It means that iron is not that reactive as metal Y in its oxide. So iron is less reactive than Y. So option A is the correct. So and it means that Y can replace iron oxide, so it can react with iron oxide. So yeah, as you see, reaction takes place. It means that metal Y is more reactive than iron oxide, so it should be after this iron in this list. Okay, question number 31. Which metal is most easily obtained from its ore? Okay, we need to pay attention to the word easily. So this probably again means reactivity series. So as you remember, most reactive metals, so sodium, lithium, potassium, etc., they are not produced by heating with coke. They are produced by electrolysis. So, and this is not that easy. So this is the hardest option. So you can cancel out all of the options containing reactive metals. So aluminium, calcium, and check these two metals, copper and iron. So you need to pick up the least reactive metal from this list, and this metal is obtained from its ore easier. So if you remember, again, memorize that rule. Please stop calling me a careless zebra. Instead learn how copper saves gold. So instead refers to iron, instead for iron, and how copper saves gold. So copper is at the end of this mnemonic rule, so this is the least reactive metal, and it's easier to remove it from its ore simply by heating with coke So copper oxide with coke gives you copper and carbon dioxide, and it should be balanced. So iron can do the same, but it requires more energy because of its higher reactivity. Next question, why is distilled water used in chemical experiments rather than tap water? Okay, this is just a knowledge question, so it's simply because of impurities. Distilled water contains fewer chemical impurities. Yep, maybe. I'm struggling because of the word fewer. It has minimum chemical impurities. Distilled water has a better color. Nope, it's a colorless liquid. Distilled water has a higher boiling point. I hope no. Impurities present in tap water may slightly increase boiling point of water, but it doesn't change significantly, so definitely no. Distilled water is a better solvent. Well, solubility, it's not a thing to discuss because solubility may not change significantly again. So A is the correct answer for this question. Alright, which type of compound is also the name of homologous series? Okay, carbonate. So name of homologous series and type of compound. Well, that's a strange question. So homologous series are series of compounds containing same functional group. So hydroxide substances containing, let's begin from the bottom. So hydroxide group containing substances are known as alcohols or phenols. So it's not an our option. Halide. So halide ion containing substances in organic chemistry are known as halogenoalkanes. So this is under question. So carboxylic acid, it's COOH group, and substances containing that group are also known as carboxylic acids. So this is probably our correct answer. So carbonates. So this option is not referring to homologous series because the idea of homologous series is applied in organic chemistry. So carbonates are for inorganic chemistry. So why halides are under question mark? So halide can be also halide of hydrogen, or it can be halide of alkane, but we don't call them halides, so we call them halogenoalkane. So this is why I'm telling this is under question mark and this is not our option. Okay, next question. Fractional distillation of petroleum is shown. Which fraction is the least volatile? Okay, least volatile means it will be at the bottom of the fractionating column. So as you remember, fractions with the lowest boiling point or highest volatility, so these properties are not in direct relationship, they are in opposite, goes off first. So refinery gas contains mostly from 1 carbon to 4 carbon atoms in hydrocarbons, so this goes first, and this is the most volatile substance, well, most volatile fraction, and the least volatile fraction is this right at the bottom. So bitumen is the least volatile. Which formula represents an unsaturated hydrocarbon? Okay, so unsaturated means, so if we're talking about hydrocarbon, means alkane. So you need to remember the general formula of alkanes. So it's CnH2n plus 2, and find any option which fits to that general formula. So C3H6, it's CnH2n, not an option. C3H8, so it's our option. So you can skip the rest part and save your time. Structure of an organic compound is shown. The compound is tested separately with thymolphthalene and with aqueous bromine, which row describes the final color observed for each test. Okay, so for thymolphthalene and aqueous bromine, So for this you need to know the color of this indicator before in acids, bases, and in neutral solution. And for aqueous bromine, you need to know what substances can react with aqueous bromine and what is the color change. So bromine, aqueous bromine is used to test for the presence of double bonds. So we see the double bond here, so it means that aqueous bromine will react with it. So the final color of aqueous bromine would be colorless. So you can get rid of orange colors here, so it's gonna be colorless. So orange is initial color, and it would be orange if there was no double bonds, but we see there is a double bond between carbon atoms, so this is an alkene group that reacts with bromine. Okay, what is the color of thymolphthalene if you're taking this substance? So you see again another functional group, it's carboxylic acid, so you need to know what's the color of thymolphthalene in acidic solutions. So as I remember, the color, well, thymolphthalene was colorless. Yep, and that is the correct option. So it's colorless, and it's probably blue in a basic solution. Next question, which statement describes methane? So methane is an alkane with formula CH4. It's an alcohol. Nope, it's an unsaturated molecule. Nope, because it's an alkane, and if you remember, alkanes are saturated ones. It contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms only. No oxygen in methane, so it's not correct. Molecules contain 4 single covalent bonds. Yep, so that was a structure of methane. So it contains 4 bonds. It contains 4 hydrogens with single hydrogen bond, single covalent bonds. Which row explains why plastics such as polyethylene cause pollution? Alright, so this is related to polymers. So why plastics cause pollution? So polyethylene, so you need to consider its combustion reactions. Do they produce any toxic gases, and does it accumulate in oceans or not? So polymers are, well, addition polymers in that case, they are they are non-biodegradable, means that they do not undergo decomposition in nature. So therefore they accumulate, they don't undergo decay, so they accumulate in oceans. So you can cancel out options A and C, and you need to answer this question: do they produce any toxic gases when burned? So you have a specific substance as an example, so it's ethene, polyethylene. So this was polymerized into this, and you need to answer, can this produce any harmful gases when burned? So simply this is this reminds us alkanes structure. So when alkanes are burnt, they produce carbon dioxide and water. So you need to tell whether these compounds are toxic. I suppose none of them are toxic, but this is a greenhouse gas, but we don't have anything about it. So this is not correct answer. Why not? Because these polymers, these ones, can undergo incomplete combustion. So when they undergo incomplete combustion, they can produce carbon monoxide and water. So this substance is a harmful toxic gas. It's known also as a silent killer, and D is the correct answer. Alright, question number 39. There are 2 experiments and we need to choose the correct statement. Large of mass of copper sulfate is stirred. After a few minutes, the undissolved crystals are visible on the bottom of the beaker. Okay. Seawater is distilled. Distilled water and solid impure are separated into containers. Okay, in experiment 1, the undissolved crystals are the filtrate. Nope, this is not correct answer. Undissolved crystals are remaining on the filter paper, and filtrate contains copper sulfate, which is soluble, so we're not agree with that part. Experiment 1, the water is a solid. No, water is a solvent. Solute is a substance being dissolved. Experiment 2, seawater boils at 100 Celsius degree. Nope, because of impurities, boiling points should be higher, so this is not correct. Experiment 2, impure salt is a residue. Yep, so this is a distillation, and impure salts are left in the beaker during the distillation process. Okay, and the last question. Aqueous sample of X is heated with aqueous sodium hydroxide and small pieces of aluminium. A gas produced which turns damp red litmus paper blue. Then aqueous sodium hydroxide is added to a second aqueous sample of X. A pale green precipitate is observed. What is X? So this is the description for cations and anions test. So aqueous sample of X. So this is a description of production of ammonia gas, which turns damp red litmus paper blue. And ammonia gas can be produced in various ways, but if you see aluminium, sodium hydroxide heated together, so you're probably obtaining it from nitrate ions. So X contains nitrate ions. Next description. So sodium hydroxide ions, they give a pale green precipitate. So green precipitate is a sign of presence of iron 2 ions that give iron hydroxide, which is of pale green, so it's insoluble substance. So probably they mean iron 2. So iron 2 nitrate is an answer. Okay, so we are done. I hope this video is useful, and this will help you to understand some concepts in chemistry and do your IGCSE exams very well. So press like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends, and you'll get more videos from me in my channel. Bye bye.